Hey, 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 what up, though? This your girl, Boss Lady V, coming back to you with another video after a month of being shut down on YouTube due to an error on their part. But they finally fixed my page. I'm back up and running, so let's get into it. So, first, I want to give out the title, which is Delusional Edition. We're going to be talking about some women in reality TV that I believe are truly delusional. There are many, but let's start with Mia and we got Phaedra and we got Arionne Curry. Is she really a realist? She's not a realist star. She wants to be one, but hey, it is what it is. I'm gonna go over to. I'm gonna mute this real fast because I don't want to get in trouble. So let's look at these pictures that everybody had seen that Ariane posted on her page. Never seen a view with no high. Ain't that right? I'm a king type and I bring life so hang tight. Never seen a view with no high. Ain't that right? The girl was truly never seen a view with no high. Ain't that right? I'm a king type and I bring life so hang tight. Never seen a view with no high. Ain't that right? I'm a king type and I bring life so hang tight. But I do not think this is something that I would be fighting about, but it's delusional because she thinks that any little time he steps outside with her, that means more than what it really is because everybody knows, I don't care who you see Martell with out in the public, this man wants to be back with Melanie. Hell, sometimes I think Melanie wants to be back with him too. And it's sad that he plays with her feelings like that because he thinks he can because he knows. One thing is really bad for a man to play with a woman's feelings and they know how she really feel about him. And I think that's what Martell is doing to Ariane. He knows that she will always be there. At least he thinks she will. Because I believe one day she will really wake up and say, you know what, this man been playing in my face. He been playing me out for the world to see that it's not me who he wants. I mean, he even played this for charade. He was in King Museum, and he pops out with you every time. It's time for Love and Marriage Hospital to come back on, which, by the way, annoys the hell out of me. I don't understand why their season is so long. Their season is a year. They get 3 breaks and then 4 or 5 episodes break. 4 or 5 episodes break. Like, what the hell? Is that a way to draw it out so they don't have to pay them much? Because that doesn't make any sense. But anyway, I really don't watch. I just watch the clips online until they update the storyline. I'm tired of seeing Melanie against all the women on the show and still talking about Martell. Even though sometimes she does have a reason to, because they come for her. Neither here nor there. This is about Martell and Ariane. I believe Martell Hall is a clown. He is a classic clown in my cousin. He's a classic clown because he preys on women who want a man so bad, who choose bad men. He preys on women with low self-esteem, and that's why his marriage is over because that wasn't Melanie. Even though she accepted his cheating for a while, she still has self-esteem because she knows she's a beautiful girl. And I'm not saying Arionne is ugly, but she ain't no Melanie. But everybody's beauty is in the eye of the beholder, right? So it is what it is. But you can tell she is so happy to be outside with him. I do want her to get another hairstyle. And I don't know if she has to faux hair or what. I hope she don't. I think she's a cute girl. I really do. She has a nice shape. But I don't see Martell settling down with her. He wants to settle down with somebody that looks up Melanie, that looks up a charade, who has clout, who has something he can hold on to gain clout. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, drop down in comments and let me know your opinions about that. So let's move on to Mia Thornton from Real Housewives of Potomac. I honestly believe Mia just make up anything and think we gonna believe it. I do. She just says anything off the top of her head and she posts it. I don't know if she also be looking for a viral moment. And just how I got these going sideways, that's how her mind is. I think she goes sideways because she just says anything out the side of her neck. Now, how are you going to say this is what Mia said by her soon to be ex-husband? She said he groomed her at the age of 19. Also, she's also claimed she caught him having sex with one of her friends in their home. Duh, Jackie, you are see, this is what I'm talking about. You get on the show, you say this man got you out this luxury strip club where they was selling lobsters, and now you want to say he groomed you. How? Can you explain that more? I know she made this lengthy post, but I don't even want. You know what? I'm gonna just look at it. Some of it. She said, met my soon to be ex husband at the men's club Charlotte when I was 19 years old. He would come into the club during certain seasons and spend endless amount of money. Naturally, I was fresh bait. Being the young and impressionable adolescent adult, he masterminded and manipulated me into thinking he was successful, powerful pillar in the he was a successful, powerful pillar in the community. Jesus Christ. Oh my God. You know what? Mia, you didn't get groomed. You was looking for a sugar daddy. He presented himself like a sugar daddy and you fell for it because that is what you wanted. You were in the strip club. You were doing what you were doing because you was looking for a sugar daddy. All right, sorry, excuse me. Somebody text me because my son game is in a little bit, so I won't be long. And so, why would you get on the internet and make this man say he's out to be a predator on the heels of P Diddy, R. Kelly, Bill Cosby? They're trying to get Jay Z and Beyonce. I mean, why would you put that out there on this man? He's already come out on the last reunion saying he having mental issues, and then you add on top of that he's a predator. That's not right. That is low down and dirty. Why would you do that? That's foul. And I hope that he goes forward and regain his confidence, regain his security. Let me see what I want to say. Go and be him that he was when he met her. You know what I'm saying? Go be the guy you were when you met Mia. That's what I'm trying to say. Because you're down and out, she's trying to display you as if you're this horrible person. Now, maybe you mismanaged funds since you got with her because you were trying to impress her. But now, because the money is gone, you're a predator. And that's just foul because one day her children, because we don't, in this currency, she's trying to play like Gordon is not the father of one of her sons, Jeremiah, I believe. But I don't talk about kids on here. Um, that's not right. Because who does that? Me and my son SD, that's what I call him, SD, aka sperm donor, is not together. But I'm not gonna say, oh, he groomed me and he's a predator just because we're not together anymore. So let's say, for instance, Gordon hits the lottery, or he come into a new business, or he just finds this successful road somewhere and ends up on it. Would that go away? Would you still be with him? Because the fact of the matter is, you might just be a gold digger. Allegedly, you was looking for a sugar daddy. Let me say that. This is all alleged. All alleged. But that's the way you present it to be. I don't know if it's true, but that's just the way it looked. That you was in the strip club at 19. Maybe you had daddy issues. Maybe you didn't. But you were looking for a sugar daddy. Gordon came, presented himself as one because he was spending a lot of money on you, and you fell for it. Whose fault is that? He knew what you were. He knew what he had to do to get you, and you fell for it. That's not his fault. Now, if he did portray himself to have more than what he did, then that was wrong. But the average man does that when they're trying to impress a beautiful luxury woman. Just say that because Mia is a pretty girl, pretty woman. And he probably felt as if she was out of his class. So he had to present himself as a baller to get her. And he knew deep down inside that's what she wanted. But as Carlos King would say, Mia be lying. Mia lies for absolutely no reason. I think she needs to stop before her kids grow up and resent her, because it's not cool. It's not cool at all. Oh well. Let's move on to the last topic, and then I'm gonna get out of here and get to my son's football game.
You're back on the Real Housewives of Atlanta. Do you think you revived the show?
Well, of course I did.
You're back on the Real Housewives of Atlanta.
Let's
Do you
listen.
think you revived the show?
Well, of course I did.
You're back on the Real Housewives of Atlanta. Do you think you revived the show?
Well, of course I did.
You're back on the Real Housewives of Atlanta. Do you think you revived the show?
Well, of course I did.
You're back
my
on the Real
God, we
Housewives
play
of
that
Atlanta.
again.
Do you think you revived the show?
Well, of course I
Play
did.
that
You're back.
again. We gotta go back.
You're back on the Real Housewives of Atlanta. Do you think you revived the show?
Well, of course I did.
You're back on the Real Housewives of Atlanta. Do you think you revived the show?
Well, of course I did.
You're
It's
back
not
on the Real
showing-
Housewives of
oh,
Atlanta.
you know what?
Do you think you revived the show?
Well, of course I did.
You're back on the Real Housewives
Well,
of Atlanta.
we
Do
all
you
know
think
what
you
Phaedra said.
revived
She
the show?
revived all shows
course I
that
did.
she
You're
on,
back on the Real
and she
Housewives of Atlanta.
revived
Do you think you
Married
revived the show?
Let me just
Well,
play
of
it.
course I did.
You're back on the Real
I'm
Housewives
sorry, I
of
thought I
Atlanta.
had the
Do you think
video,
you revived
and
the
I
show?
don't. I'm still learning
course I did.
here.
You're back on the Real Housewives of Atlanta. Do you
Here
think
she
you
go.
revived the show?
Well, of course I did.
You're back on the Real Housewives of Atlanta. Do you think you
course I did.
revived the show?
I revived
You're
most
back on
shows.
the Real
Look at the
Housewives
numbers
of
from Married to
Atlanta.
Medicine.
Do you think you revived the show?
So
You're
that
back on the Real
is
Housewives
what
of
Phaedra
Atlanta.
Parks
Do you think you
said
revived
during
the
the
show?
interview on Dancing with
course
the
I did.
You're
Stars.
back on the Real
And I
Housewives
don't
of
know why they
Atlanta.
would bring
Do you
up
think you
Bravo.
revived
Anything
the
to do
show?
with it, but they did
Well, of course I
because
did.
they
You're
knew
back on
what
the Real
they were
Housewives of
doing.
Atlanta. Do you think you
But
revived
I also
the show?
believe Phaedra said what she
I did.
did
You're
to
back
bring
on the Real
ratings
Housewives of
to
Atlanta.
both shows.
Do you
I
think you
think she was just
revived
being
the
shady
show?
and funny,
Well, of course I
but
did.
You're
also
back on the Real
inaccurate.
Housewives of Atlanta. Do you think you
Phaedra brought
revived the show?
absolutely nothing
Well, of course I did.
You're back on the Real
to Married
Housewives
to
of
Medicine.
Atlanta. Do you think
Married
you
to Medicine was
revived the show?
already, to me,
Well, of
the
course I
best
did.
show
You're back on
on
the Real Housewives of
Bravo
Atlanta.
since
Do you
the
think you
glory
revived
days
the
of
show?
RHOA.
Well, of course I did.
You're back on the Real
So for
Housewives of
her
Atlanta.
to say
Do you
that was
think you
just
revived the show?
dumb,
Well, of
and
course
dumb.
I did.
You're back on the Real Housewives
But
of
I
Atlanta.
get it if you
Do you
want to
think
give
you
yourself
revived
brownie
the
points.
show?
Now we cannot just act
course I
like
did.
You're
I'm not
back
going
on
to
the
just
Real
act like
Housewives of
rather
Atlanta.
that
Do you think
Phaedra
you
is not
revived the show?
one of those
course I did.
iconic
You're back on the Real
housewives
Housewives of
or
Atlanta.
people
Do you
that's
think
been
you
on Bravo,
revived the
because
show?
she is. Phaedra has
course
one of
I
the
did.
most
You're back on the Real Housewives
iconic
of Atlanta.
leads that
Do you
ever
think you
been on
revived the show?
Housewives across the
course I did.
board.
You're back on the Real Housewives
She
of Atlanta.
also is one
Do
of
you
the
think you
top liars
revived the
of
show?
housewives
Well, of
across
course
the
I did.
board,
You're back on the
allegedly.
Real Housewives
Now
of
this is
Atlanta.
not
Do you
even.
think you
Everybody
revived the
said Phaedra
show?
lies.
Well, of
Nene
course I
called her
did.
You're back on
Phaedra.
the Real Housewives of Atlanta.
Phaedra?
Do you think you
I think that's what Nene
revived the
called her.
show?
So
of
this
course I
is
did.
You're
not
back on the Real
new
Housewives of
or
Atlanta. Do you
something
think you revived the show?
different.
Well,
But
of course I did.
You're back on the Real Housewives of
let's
Atlanta.
just
Do you
listen
think you
to a
revived the
little
show?
clip
Well, of course I did.
You're back on the Real Housewives of
Phaedra
Atlanta.
and
Do you think you
I mean,
revived
not
the
Phaedra.
show?
Sorry,
course I did.
You're back on the Real
Dr.
Housewives of
Heatherly
Atlanta. Do you think you
and
revived the show?
Qua responding
course I
to
did.
You're
what
back on the Real Housewives of
Phaedra
Atlanta.
said.
Do you think you revived the show?
Kind of slap in the
course I
face.
did.
You're
because
back
I
on the Real
honestly
Housewives
think-
of
and
Atlanta.
tell me what
Do you think you
Can we not help
revived the
her?
show?
Well, of course I did.
You're back on the Real Housewives of Atlanta.
Your words,
Do you think you
your words,
revived
she was
the
bitch
show?
for 5 years. Those were your
Of
words.
course I did.
You're back on the Real Housewives of Atlanta.
Well, we didn't
Do you
see
think
her.
you revived the show?
At all for 5
course I
years.
did.
I mean,
You're
maybe
back on the Real
sprinkles
Housewives
here
of
and there,
Atlanta.
but not
Do you think
really
you revived
much
the
of
show?
anything. And if we're
course I
talking
did.
about
You're back on the Real
revival, I
Housewives
would
of
have to
Atlanta.
say
Do
she
you
most
think you
certainly was
revived the show?
resuscitated as I helped
course I
to
did.
usher
You're
her
back on the Real
in
Housewives of
to
Atlanta.
Married to
Do you
Medicine.
think you revived the
Okay,
show?
and I think it's the other way around. I think
You're
she's
back
quite
on the Real
confused. I
Housewives of
don't know, maybe
Atlanta.
she's been
Do you
dropped on her
think you
head or something. I
revived
don't
the
know.
show?
But I think when we're talking about
You're back on the Real
reviving,
Housewives of Atlanta.
I
Do
think
you
it's
think
the
you
other way
revived
around.
the show?
See, she did not revive
You're
Married
back
to
on the Real
Medicine.
Housewives of
Married to
Atlanta.
Medicine
Do you think
revived
you
her career.
revived the show?
Well, of course
And I'm
I
just
did.
You're
saying.
back on
And
the Real
I would
Housewives of
like for her
Atlanta.
to pay
Do you think
homage
you revived
to
the
the
show?
girls.
Well, of course I did.
I'm
You're
just
back
saying,
on the Real
just
Housewives of
on some real
Atlanta.
shit.
Do you think you revived
You
the
know what?
show?
Quite honestly, I think
Well, of course
kind
I
of
did.
You're
slapping.
back on the Real Housewives of
That
Atlanta.
is just
Do you think you
some
revived the
of what
show?
Quad
Well, of course I did.
You're back on the
and
Real
Dr.
Housewives of
Heavenly
Atlanta. Do
responded
you think you
to
revived the
Phaedra
show?
saying that she
Well, of course I
revived
did.
the
You're back on the Real
show,
Housewives of Atlanta. Do you
and
think you revived the show?
it's
Well,
just
of course I did.
You're
outrageous
back on the Real
for her to
Housewives of
say that, because
Atlanta. Do you think you revived the show?
Married to Medicine
Well, of course I did.
You're back on the
will
Real Housewives of
always be
Atlanta.
one
Do you
of the
think
top
you
shows on
revived the
Bravo
show?
Well, of
currently
course I did.
You're back on the
for
Real
the
Housewives
last
of
few
Atlanta.
seasons,
Do
because
you think you
ROH started
revived
to
the show?
die off.
Well, of
Don't
course
know
I
what
did.
this
You're
new
back
season
on the
will be
Real
like, because
Housewives
we
of
don't even know
Atlanta.
when it's
Do you
coming
think
back.
you revived the
But
show?
Well, of course I did.
You're back on the Real
I
Housewives of
will
Atlanta.
agree.
Do you
I
think
mean,
you
if you watch the whole
revived the
video, I'm not
show?
gonna play that.
Well, of course I did.
You're back on the Real
If
Housewives of
you
Atlanta.
listen to
Do you
what
think
Dr.
you
Heavenly said, I
revived the
must agree
show?
with her
Well,
that
of course I did.
Phaedra
You're back on the Real Housewives
most
of
likely
Atlanta.
did
Do you
bring
think you
some
revived
eyes
the show?
to the show that was not
You're back on the Real Housewives of
watching
Atlanta.
Married to
Do
Medicine.
you think you revived
But
the
she didn't
show?
bring enough
Well, of course I
eyes,
did.
You're back on the Real
enough
Housewives of
people,
Atlanta. Do you
viewers
think you
over to
revived the
revive it.
show?
It wasn't
Well,
dead.
of course
It
I
didn't
did.
need to
You're
be
back on the Real
revived.
Housewives of Atlanta. Do
And
you
I'm
think you
with Quad. She
revived the
was the
show?
one who got resuscitated,
course I did.
because
You're back on the Real
had
Housewives of Atlanta. Do
Candy
you think
not
you
left
revived the
Housewives
show?
of Atlanta,
Well, of course I
you
did.
would
You're
have still
back
been
on the
on
Real
Married to
Housewives of
Medicine.
Atlanta. Do you think you revived the
And it's
show?
quite simple.
Well, of course
There's
I did.
You're
no
back on the Real
thinking
Housewives of
about it.
Atlanta. Do you
It
think you
is what it is.
revived
You
the
didn't
show?
go back to Housewives of
course I
Atlanta
did.
You're back on the Real
until
Housewives of
Candy
Atlanta.
left.
Do you think you
Now, I wonder if
revived the
Candy was to
show?
come back, would
Well,
you
of
still
course
be
I did.
able to
You're
be
back
there?
on the Real Housewives of Atlanta. Do you think you
But at this
revived the
point,
show?
Candy may not even
course
want
I
to
did.
come
You're
back
back on the Real
because
Housewives of
of
Atlanta.
you ever
Do you
even
think you
coming back.
revived
So
the
she
show?
might be done with
of course I
Housewives
did.
of
You're back
Atlanta.
on the Real
I
Housewives of
hope she's
Atlanta.
not. I hope
Do
she
you
come
think you
back and talk about all
revived
the
the
things she's
show?
done this year
Well, of
since
course
she's
I
not
did.
You're
filming.
back on the Real Housewives of Atlanta.
But if
Do you
Phaedra
think
is
you
going to stay
revived
on
the
Housewives
show?
of Atlanta, we
Well, of course I
definitely
did.
You're
need
back on
Kenya.
the Real Housewives of
Kenya's the
Atlanta.
only one
Do
that's
you
going to
think you
clock her.
revived
The
the show?
only one that's on the show. I don't know about the
You're back on
newbies
the Real
because
Housewives
I
of
haven't
Atlanta.
seen them in
Do you
action.
think you
But for
revived the
sure,
show?
Kenya will
Well, of
clock
course I did.
You're back
Phaedra
on the Real Housewives of
fakeness
Atlanta. Do you
every
think you
single time.
revived the show?
Every single time. And I'm
Well, of
like,
course I did.
Quad,
You're
all
back
she
on
do
the
is
Real
make
Housewives of
faces.
Atlanta. Do you think you revived the show?
Jesus, fix
Well,
it.
of course I did.
No,
You're
nobody.
back on the Real
That's
Housewives
not
of Atlanta. Do you
reviving no
think you
ratings because,
revived the show?
trust me,
Well, of course I
the
did.
You're
mess
back on
with
the Real Housewives of
Quad,
Atlanta. Do you think you
Greg,
revived
what's his
the
name,
show?
Greg and T,
Well, of course I
Sweet
did.
Tea.
You're back on the Real
That
Housewives
was
of
what.
Atlanta.
That's
Do
what
you think you
carried last
revived the
season.
show?
Well, of course I did.
And
You're back on the Real
Toya,
Housewives of Atlanta.
Dr.
Do you think you revived the show?
No,
Well,
Simone,
of course I did.
You're
Jackie,
back on the Real Housewives of
Heavenly,
Atlanta. Do you think you
and
revived the
Quad
show?
Well,
don't
of
need
course
no
I did.
help.
You're back on the Real Housewives of Atlanta.
And now
Do
they
you
even
think you
got Contessa
revived
back.
the show?
Well, of
So
course I did.
You're
apparently,
back on the Real Housewives of Atlanta.
you
Do you
left
think you revived the show?
because they
Well, of course I
invited
did.
You're back on the Real
Apollo
Housewives of
and his
Atlanta. Do you
now
think you
wife on
revived the
cash
show?
trip allegedly,
Well, of course I
and
did.
you
You're
cussed
back on the Real
producers
Housewives
out,
of
and you did
Atlanta.
this,
Do
and
you
you did
think you
that, and
revived
you
the
left.
show?
So
Well,
why
of
would
course
you
I did.
You're
leave
back on the Real
something that
Housewives
you
of Atlanta.
revived?
Do you think you revived
It
the
doesn't make
show?
any sense.
Well, of course
But
I
I
did.
get
You're
what you're
back on the Real
saying. I know
Housewives
you
of
want to
Atlanta.
put that
Do you think you
rainbow
revived
over
the
your head and
show?
make it seem like
Well,
you
of
the one
course
who
I did.
did
You're
it,
back
and
on the
hey,
Real Housewives of
pat
Atlanta.
your own
Do you
self on
think
the
you
back. Why don't
revived
you?
the show?
But
Well, of course I
Married
did.
to
You're back on the
Medicine
Real
did
Housewives of
not need
Atlanta. Do you
Phaedra
think you revived the
to
show?
come back
Well, of course I did.
You're back
to
on the
make
Real
Married to
Housewives of
Medicine come
Atlanta.
back because it
Do you
didn't
think
go
you
anywhere.
revived the
It
show?
has been
Well, of
popping
course I did.
You're
ever
back on
since
the Real
it's been
Housewives
off
of
since
Atlanta.
season one.
Do you think you
Now this is
revived the
season
show?
11 coming up,
Well, of
right?
course I did.
You're back on the Real Housewives of Atlanta.
On
Do you think
season
you
12. I
revived
think
the
it's season
show?
11. Whichever
Well,
season
of
it
course
is.
I did.
You're
You're
back
not
on the
even
Real
on there for the
Housewives of
full
Atlanta.
season.
Do you think you
So
revived the show?
I'm pretty
Well,
sure
of course I did.
You're
with
back
Dr.
on the Real
Heavenly
Housewives
being
of
the
Atlanta.
bone
Do you
carrier,
think you
with Quad
revived
being
the show?
theatrics,
Well, of course I did.
You're
with
back on the Real
Toya
Housewives of Atlanta. Do you
realness,
think you revived the
Simone
show?
loudness,
Well, of
Dr.
course I did.
You're back on the Real
Jackie
Housewives of Atlanta. Do you
bouginess,
think you revived the
contestant
show?
strongness.
Well, of course I did.
You're
Married
back
to
on the Real
Medicine was
Housewives of
just fine
Atlanta.
without
Do you
Quad.
think you
Now, I
revived
do
the
believe
show?
RHOA is a better
You're back on the
platform
Real
for
Housewives
her
of Atlanta.
to
Do you think
carry
you
on the way that
revived
she
the
does.
show?
It's not Married to
Well, of course I
Medicine.
did.
You're back
And
on the
I'm
Real
like,
Housewives of
Mariah,
Atlanta. Do
you're
you
not
think you
even married to
revived the
medicine, my
show?
love.
Well, of course
I'm,
I did.
You're
I'm
back on the Real
saying, you know
Housewives of
what?
Atlanta. Do you think you
Now that we're
revived
saying
the
it,
show?
they
Well, of
need
course I
Mariah
did.
You're
back
back on the Real
next
Housewives of
season.
Atlanta.
I'm
Do
just
you
saying.
think you
But I know it
revived the show?
probably won't never
Well, of
happen.
course I did.
But
You're
I
back on the Real
surely
Housewives
wish
of Atlanta.
Mariah
Do you
will
think
come
you
back
revived the
to Married
show?
to Medicine.
Well, of course I did.
You're back on the
Or
Real Housewives of
maybe
Atlanta. Do you think
create
you
a show
revived
with
the
like
show?
Mariah,
course I did.
You're
Nene,
back on the Real Housewives of Atlanta.
Candy,
Do you think you revived the
all the
show?
ladies that
Well,
left
of course I did.
across the
You're back on
board,
the Real
and
Housewives of
you know,
Atlanta.
left
Do you
Bravo,
think you
and see
revived
how
the
it go.
show?
I do think Nene
Well, of
deserves
course I
a
did.
You're
chance
back on the Real
at this
Housewives of
point,
Atlanta. Do you
and
think you
gladly
revived
she was
the
able to
show?
host a show for
Well, of
them a
course
couple
I did.
weeks
You're
ago,
back
so
on the
maybe
Real
the door
Housewives
is
of
open.
Atlanta. Do you think you revived
But
the show?
Again,
said that
I
you're back on
am
the Real Housewives
back.
of Atlanta.
I'm
Do you
back.
think
I'm
you
back.
revived the show?
I'm working some long
You're
hours at
back
the
on the Real
school, at
Housewives
the
of
high
Atlanta.
school.
Do you think you revived the
Administration is
show?
sometimes pretty stressful
You're
with these
back on the Real
kids.
Housewives of Atlanta.
My
Do
son
you
has
think you
football and
revived the
band,
show?
but I will be
You're
back
back
in
on the Real
full
Housewives of
effect.
Atlanta. Do you think
I'm
you
going to make sure I
revived the
try to get a
show?
video out every day.
You're back on the Real Housewives of Atlanta. Do you
I
think
do
you
have another
revived the
channel that I
show?
started, the before and after
You're
show.
back on the
I
Real
will be
Housewives of
talking about
Atlanta. Do
sports
you think
only
you
on that show.
revived
So
the
if you want
show?
to hear my sports
You're
recap,
back on the Real Housewives of
let's go
Atlanta.
Detroit
Do you think you
Lions.
revived
Then
the
hop
show?
on over there and subscribe to the
You're back on the Real
channel.
Housewives of
But
Atlanta. Do
for
you think you
now,
revived the show?
thank you for watching this video, and make sure you subscribe, like, and comment. Subscribe, hit that like button, and subscribe. And you can watch these other videos when this one is over. Again, I'll talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.